Hello traders, and welcome to another crypto market update as well as a global macro update. We're going to start off the video looking at the S&P and the US dollar. These two assets are going to be negatively correlated, which means if one goes up, the other one is going to go down, and vice versa if it's the opposite way. So first things first, let's look at the S&P and discuss what we've been seeing here. So in my opinion, we have seen a head and shoulders, and it does look like it still has a little bit of movement that it needs to actually push to the downside in order to complete the head and shoulders right here. How we're going to get the target is by looking at the top of the head and the neckline. The neckline sitting at around 33.25. Not exactly, but a zone of sensitivity here back in January of 2020. And then very easily noticeable left shoulder, head, right shoulder, with the shoulders lining up at around 3,400, which is the previous all-time high that we saw back in February. So we got a strong impulsive push to break below the neckline. We got a pullback validating the previous support as a new level of resistance. Massive sell-off right when we got that validation. And then in my opinion, it's just looking like it's creating a nice little downtrend. You could connect the lower highs to put a descending trend line, but I do think a potential for the price to push below it around 31 could be a pretty high probability, just because if we are looking at the distance of the actual price action pattern, it's going to be right around there. So we can see around $3,100 previous key level of support, and if we zoom back out, that's going to be a pretty major level of significance on the chart when we're looking at the larger time frame. So it wouldn't be too surprising if we get a pullback to that area, but that's the current target that I'm looking at for the S&P, is just a nice move to the downside. I think we're going to continue on and hit that 3,100 to complete this head and shoulder pattern. From that point onwards, we'll see if it's going to be still making lower lows and lower highs, or if it's going to be holding for a potential bottoming pattern where we're not able to make a lower low. So right now, just making a series of lower lows and lower highs on the 6 hour, 4 hour. Let's just quickly jump on to the daily to see if we can identify anything here on a larger time frame. Not really. Very simply put, key level of support broken, and we don't see the weekly close just yet, but we see that previous high, key level of support. So we are making a strong corrective push after the impulsive push breaking the previous high. This could still be a higher low holding the previous high right here, so I still view this as potentially a risk on market. If it does go below the 30 to 30-ish zone, that's definitely going to change my mind, because that would be not only the completion of the head and shoulders, but a continuation down, and then that would be breaking our major level of significance that we were able to hold back in December of 2019, January of 2020, and that was a key significant level of resistance for the supply at around the summer of 2020. So that's going to be the major level that I do think is going to be holding for the demand for the buyers, is around 3,200. So going to the 4 hour chart, 32, 33, I think we could see a little bit of move down here, but I wouldn't be too surprised if we start holding. It's not aggressively pushing down, it's creating nice structured movements to the downside, breaking supports, holding resistances. So it's nothing that is, in my opinion, kind of the ordinary, where we're seeing aggressive movements that are increasing in the speed of the movement downwards, whereas this one, we're not really seeing that. It's just nice, steady, structured movements to the downside. So we are in a corrective phase, but I don't think that we are at the point where we're accelerating to the downside just yet. And I think this level of support would be something to look out for a potential hold, if not around 31. So that's my view of the S&P, of the risk on assets, and a little bit of a correction, but I don't want to be looking for shorts just yet, because I do think that the risk on overall market is going to continue. Not a lot of discussion here on the NASDAQ. I think we're just going to skip right to the US dollar, so looking at DXY, because they are going to be negatively correlated with the S&P. So the DXY actually does look a little bit more bullish after bottoming out right here on a major level of support at around $93. So let's just move this right here. We're going to be looking at initially the weekly chart to get a good understanding of this potential demand zone. We see back in 2015, 16, 17, this level was a major zone for buyers. We saw there was buyers all throughout 2015, 16, 17, and then in 2018 we got a validation right here as well. So overall, this $92.50, $93 zone is a major significant level for the US dollar. We were aggressively falling to that zone. We consolidated, we saw a series of lower lows, hold a low, and then series of higher lows with a key break at around 90, let's say 93.80. And then moving on to the daily chart, we did see a series of lower lows, a hold of the support zone at around 92.50, and then we saw a higher low. This is going to be changing the structure of the price action, and then this was the ceiling for this consolidation for this bottom. So the way I'm looking at this now is this is a nice bottoming structure, and we've made our first high, and it does look like we've made our higher low. So just looking at the US dollar, it does look like the risk off assets are looking like they could potentially start moving to the upside here, because we know on a large time frame this is going to be a key structural level of demand, and we broke the ceiling or roof, which is going to be around 93.50, right around there. So this does look like somewhat of a potential of a bottom, which means if this is going to continue to move to the upside, things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, things like the SPX, gold, silver are going to be moving to the downside. So we do want to keep an eye on this chart, especially in my personal opinion. And we've seen these bottoms happen over and over and over again. If we look at Bitcoin's bottom that occurred in 2018 and 2019, if we see gold's bottom that was from around 2012 all the way to 2018, these bottoms do occur quite frequently on different time frames, but this nice key level of resistance and this bottoming is a very common structure for price to consolidate, hold, and then change direction. So this, in my opinion, is a little bit of a worry for risk on assets. Like I said, when looking at the S&P, there could be a possibility of it being a very, very significant fake out, just hitting this high right here, retesting it, and then continuing its overall direction to the downside. But I do want to be a little bit cautious because the US dollar was able to break this major significant level of resistance. So right now, the US dollar is looking a little bit more bullish, which means for the overall market, risk on assets like stocks, crypto, are going to be looking a little bit more bearish, but we want to be careful that we're not jumping the gun a little bit too quick, and we're really making sure that things are playing out before we jump to conclusions. Because I think out of all the assets that are in the risk on category or basket, I'd say the best performing or the best looking would probably be Bitcoin. And why is that? Let's look at the price action right now. And we're also going to be looking at the price action of the summer/spring of 2019, and then discussing how there are similarities between what happened back then and how the current price action is right now. So let's first look at Bitcoin's volatility, because let's go back here a little bit. And we were always talking about looking at Bitcoin's volatility chart, BTC 7-day, so Bitcoin volatility, looking at the 7-day, we can see that it was pretty similar to what we saw back here in terms of the lack of price movement. And then we saw a massive push to the upside, we saw a consolidation, and then we saw another push to the upside. And in my opinion, what the current price action for Bitcoin looks like is kind of this right here. And why is that? Let's look at the smaller time frame. But what we're looking for is a push, a consolidation, and then another push. In short, we're looking for similarities in the consolidation phase, not so much as the pushes, which they are important. Obviously, if you're not in them, you're not able to make money. But the main thing that we want to focus on is how this looks similar to the current price action that we're in right now. So let's first take a closer look at the price action that we see back in, I guess, May, a little bit of June in 2019. And what did we see? We saw a strong push to the upside. We saw a little bit of a squeeze right here. And then we saw an impulsive push that broke out the price. And then we saw this series of lower highs, right? So we can create a descending trend line there. But overall, we had a squeeze, we had an impulsive push, and we failed to continue initially and then we saw the price drop below a minor level of support, which is right around there, around $8,000. So squeeze, impulsive push, failed to break into a new high because this was an impulsive push. This is a correction validating the previous resistance as a new level of support. This should have kept on going theoretically if we're looking at this in the way that we're trading it. So yes, that could have been a failed entry, so be it, that happens. And then we saw a massive slam breaking the minor level of support right here. So that's definitely a little bit worrying for the bulls. But we got the final zone right here as a support, previous level of resistance right here. So this is the final level of sensitivity for the buyers to hold around, let's say, $7,200, $7,300. So we saw the series of lower highs, which is right here. This is a high, this is a lower high, this is a lower high, and then we started to see a hold. So we saw a series of lower highs right here, but then we also saw a key level of support hold right around here. This is creating a squeeze within the market because we see a series of lower highs. This is adding sell pressure onto the market, but we also see buy pressure keeping it above a certain level. So this is a squeeze. That's, in my opinion, what we're seeing right now. And it's a squeeze on an uptrend after a major level, not so much consolidation here, but the major level of consolidation right here. This is a very, very long, drawn-out consolidation. We got our first massive impulsive push, a market breath, and then we're going to get our second impulsive push to the upside there. If you're looking really at it in terms of Elliott wave, this is one, this is A, B, C, D, and E. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So it does actually move in theory as same as Elliott wave, but that's going to be what we're going to be looking for in terms of the current structure. So let's see how this looks right now. And it's a little bit bigger, but I think that it actually has a lot of similarities. So if we zoom it up right here, and I think that's around good. Let's just go like that. Okay, so now that we have a good understanding of what happened in the first initial push to the upside, we can see a lot of similarities in this current structure because this zone of consolidation was the same in terms of the contraction of price action as the previous one that we already talked about, that long drawn-out consolidation, and then the move from 4,200 to just under 14K had the same amount of contraction and volatility as we see right here. This is the first impulsive push that broke through the major significant level of around 10K. This 10K zone was a key level of supply for a very, very long time for Bitcoin. So the fact that we broke it and held above it was a very, very significant thing for the price to do. Now, after an impulsive push, because the market moves in waves, we're going to have some level of correction, right? So we see a high here. That was the top of the impulsive push to break out of the 10K high, which is right here. And now we're going to see a series of lower highs, which is right here. This is a high, this is a lower high, this is a lower high. So now we see a series of lower highs. So then what we can do is, like the last structure, draw a nice descending zone connecting the lower highs. It's not going to be perfect, obviously. It's a drawing. And then what we're going to be looking for is a squeeze. Now, this 10K zone has been a level of support we've seen right here, but this is going to be the major level of support that we're going to be looking for the squeeze. So we see a series of lower highs connected by a descending trend line, and we see a key around 10K zone for support zone, which is a previous level of significance for the supply or for the resistance or for the bears. So that's what we're seeing right now is a squeeze between the buyers and sellers for BTC. In my opinion, if the S&P starts to fall, we could see a deeper contraction within BTC, but this still does potentially play out into a descending wedge formation like that, and then we could get a breakout. So even if it does pass the 10K zone, this major weekly level right here connecting the lower highs on the weekly chart will still potentially serve as a support zone, and then we're still going to be connecting the lower highs here, so then it could look something like this. So we're going to get a deeper contraction a little bit lower than the 10K zone, and then once you see that first impulsive push really break it and validate the previous resistance as a new level of support, that's going to be the opportunity to be looking for a potential long, or at least looking for an opportunity for longs in BTC. So that's going to be my overall outlook for BTC. I don't want to call it shorts or anything, just because when we're looking on the weekly chart, it still looks very bullish. When people are saying that BTC's done its bullish run, I don't really agree with that. I think that we are in a small consolidation. If we're looking at the weekly chart, we can see just how strong this 10K zone was that we were able to break. It was not only a horizontal level of significance, but it was also a descending level of significance, creating a level of confluence for the sellers to keep the price below the zone. But then now that the price is above the zone, breaking the resistance and holding as a new support validated on the weekly, daily, large time frames, we can then not be 100% certain, but have a high probability that this is the correction, and we're going to be waiting for the next impulsive push to the upside. We're not seeing a whole lot of transactions take place here in the consolidation, which is a good thing. And what we're looking for is a nice consolidation, contraction and volatility, a squeezing in the price action, and then that next impulsive push that's going to be driving the price higher. So that overall is the direction that I think that we're going to be going. In terms of the more recent price action that could come into fruition, let's just zoom in on the 2-hour chart. I really don't think I want to be looking at very, very small time frames until we start to see the break of the market structure on a larger time frame. Like, for example, if we're looking at the 4-hour, let's just connect the lower highs here. So let's get our trend line. It's not going to be perfect. It'd be nice to see something like this. So if we're maybe going to a 6-hour, yeah, we're not really able to get a nice clean chart, but that's okay. So let's just stick to a smaller time frame and then just go like this. So that's going to be the current squeeze that we see right now. Is a descending zone that we see right here. Let's just get it nice and clean. It could be shifted a little bit because we only have 2 touch points of this, 2 rejections, and we need 3 rejections in order to qualify the trend line as a respected zone that we can use within our trading. So right now we'd like to see 1 more validation, and then we can use that as a key zone. So let's say it goes up a little bit higher and then we see something like this. That would be a structure that I'd be looking for to possibly trade. Oops. Let's just back it up. And then what we're going to be looking for, if that is the case, is we want to ideally see a previous level of resistance turn into new level of support, somewhere around there. So we see an impulsive push, a correction, and then once you see that correction or hold with some couple injections of buy pressure on the previous level of resistance, that could be the prime opportunity somewhere around there to be looking for that next impulsive push to the upside. So that's my current outlook on Bitcoin. I currently still do not think that it's a short. I think that we should be patiently waiting for an opportunity to long, just because you're really fighting the trend if you are only looking for shorts, or even looking for shorts in general at this point, in my personal opinion. I think it's a little bit safer to look for long opportunities and continue the overall trend of not just BTC, but the overall kind of risk on markets that we're seeing here. So that is the outlook for BTC. We're now going to quickly look at Ethereum, just because Ethereum is a major key asset to look at for the alts, and Ethereum's a pretty significant player in what we like to hold in the investment space. So that's going to be a little bit of discussion on that. Kind of surprising that the SPX and the US dollar are both kind of moving to the upside today. But regardless, let's go on to the next topic of discussion. So let's go to the weekly chart, because this around $300 zone is a major level of significance. And why is that? When we zoom back to a large time frame, that was the roof of the consolidation that we've been holding for a very long time, since 2018. So this was a major double bottom, perfect double bottom really. We can see that the, let's say, $90 range has been a key level of support for the double bottom. We just broke out of the resistance here at around $300, and now we're validating it as a nice new level of support. So overall, Ethereum is, in my opinion, broken out of the consolidation, and now we are kind of starting our bull run, and we're just waiting for the the overall market to start to pick back up, and B, just some consolidation. That break of $300 was an extremely significant zone to break, and let's say you're running as fast as you possibly can to break or jump above a certain level. you're going to need a market breath. You're going to need to get your breath back. Take a little bit of time to energize yourself up for the next big break. And that's what the market's doing right now. Massive impulsive push breaking the key level. Now we're getting a consolidation. It kind of does look like we're getting a double bottom right now. There was a nice ascending triangle formation that failed, moved to the downside, held the previous low, potentially creating a double bottom. And then what we could see is a minor double bottom within it. So we see like that, because then this is the first bottom and this is the second bottom. But within the second bottom, we see a nice little double bottom right there. So that could be an option here. I think the safer bet would be to see BTC start to move back up. I'd like to see Ethereum break above $400, because when we were within this triangle, we were talking about how $400 is the key zone. Resistance, 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 and we were unable to break it, making a new high. And that's why we failed, and that's why we don't enter incomplete structures. We only enter complete structures that have the highest level of dependability. So right now, that's what we're looking for, is a potential double bottom, kind of like that. And then what we could also see is a potential squeeze happening right here. So then we could also see a descending triangle formation right here with the key level. Oh, it was a really poor support. Key level of support right around here. So then the contraction will be going deeper into the apex right around here. And at a certain point, I don't exactly know how the trend line will go, somewhere like that. That was a really poorly drawn trend line. And then we're going to be looking for a contraction and then a impulsive push to start moving to the upside. So that's going to be the couple options that we're going to be looking for on Ethereum. And until then, I'm mainly just going to be looking at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the #1 asset that any cryptocurrency trader should be looking at, in my personal opinion, just because it's going to move the market the most, has the highest dominance by far. So that's going to be the key asset to be looking at. So in short, we're going to be looking for BTC to contract a little bit deeper, and then we're inevitably going to be looking for that impulsive push to start breaking to the upside. Once we start to see Bitcoin move to the upside and gain more buy pressure, that's going to allow alts to have more speculators looking at them to try to trade, look for some appreciating assets to the upside for some more volatile coins. And we're going to be looking at those like, BNB, Link, ADA, all those types that we do love to trade, Ripple. But at this very moment, I think the better bet is to wait for BTC, ensure that we are going to continue to the upside before we jump onto these alts, because a lot of the alts did have a massive sell-off, a continuational sell-off setup, and then another move down. Ethereum was able to hold that low. Some of them were unable to hold that low. So we are definitely in a little bit of a downtrend, and I think waiting for a consolidation, waiting for not just the crypto market, but for the general risk on assets to kind of hold their ground and move to the upside would be a better bet, because if the S&P is going to further continue its move to the downside, hitting its target of the head and shoulders, there's a very, very, very high chance that Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other alts will be falling to the downside as well. Not a huge worry. Like I said, we could see BTC create a descending wedge where that could be the structure. That could be the structure like so. So we could see another low come in like that, but then we're still holding this resistance zone, so we could still be breaking out there. So it's still a possibility. I don't want to call it an end of a bullish push just yet. I still value this entire move within the market as a consolidation phase before the next impulsive phase. So that's my view of the market. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you do have any questions, drop them in the comment section below, and I'll be able to help you out and answer any questions from there. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you were able to get some information, education, entertainment, whatever you get from it. Hopefully you got some value, and that's why we do it. If you do enjoy these, it'd be great if you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so we can keep on making more videos like this. We have been lowering the amount of videos that we've been putting up, just because we're taking a look at a larger time frame. We're not intraday 5-minute chart trading, so a lot of the stuff that we talk about doesn't really change in a span of 2-3 days. We're looking at daily charts. We're looking at 12-hour, 6-hour, and that takes a little bit long. That takes a little while for it to actually come into fruition and play out. So we're kind of making the switch into a little bit more swing trading instead of super short-term intraday trading, which has its place, but it's just a little bit not needed if we're only looking at larger time frames to make a video every single day. It just doesn't really make sense. We do update the individuals on our Discord, so if you like more frequent updates from Performante, definitely don't hesitate to find our Discord. Link can be within our bio or on Instagram, and then you'll be able to get it from there. So hopefully we'll see you in there, and until next time, have a good one, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend.